Hello everyone, so today in this video I want to talk about building confidence. So this is for you if you have mastered a considerable amount of basics in a particular language, so grammatical rules, verb conjugation, vocabulary, like you have a pretty good working vocabulary and you're very familiar with sentence structures. So we're going to get started with that. So for me, when I think about confidence, is a lot of times people know the language, but they're just scared to be able to get them to put themselves out there and really be able to test what they know, to be able to put themselves out there and test their skills that they've learned. So like I said, you have a large amount of knowledge in this language, and it's possible like you're probably like A2 pushing A1, but you're always doubting your skills, especially up against native speakers. Native speakers are intimidated sometimes. I know for me, I have felt that way. But at the end of the day is that, especially when I was in France, I had to use what I knew, because I realized that, yes, I could probably maybe get by with English, but I realized that I was going to get a lot further being able to speak French. So I just want to give you guys a couple of things to remember. So number one, this is normal. I think sometimes we feel like we're supposed to do this. Like the word supposed to is really just one of those words where it's like, I should be doing something. It's like, but I'm not. No, this is normal. It happens to everyone. It's like, oh, I'm at this point, I've learned this language, I feel like I know this language. I had a classmate of mine who was in AP French with me in high school, and he was talking about the fact that he went abroad to, I believe he went somewhere in the southern part of France, and he said, I thought I knew French, but I really didn't. So what happens is that you have a working knowledge. It's like now we're trying to move up on the CEFR ranking based off of native speakers. So it's like you have a basic, you have a foundation, you know how to communicate something. Now it's a matter of, okay, dialects are different. You're just kind of exposed to things that people at C1 level would be exposed to. So like when you're at B1, that you're at a point where you can survive without your L1, whatever that is. For me, my L1 is English. Others may be different. So it's really just a matter of looking at, okay, I have the building blocks, but I need to move forward with that. Native speakers are intimidating. It is true. But then the thing is that, again, that there's so many learning opportunities to expand on what you, because like when you get to like that intermediate plateau, you're looking for the next challenge. And that's usually, oh, well, I'm familiar with this dialect of French, but now I'm going to expose myself to this. So for me as a French person, I had to get familiarized with the fact that, yes, I know French in terms of like the standard metropolitan French, but when I went to Montreal, I was like, I'm gonna have to work up. I remember before I went to Canada, I was thinking I need to figure out how to recognize and understand a Quebecois accent. I mean, it's a little bit better than it was before. And there's also people in the United States that still speak French. I mean, between Maine and like the Acadian area, and then you've got the Cajuns in the South, French still exists in the United States. But sometimes when I listen to it, I'm like, that's not the French I learned. But it is still legitimate French to them. So like I said, another thing is, the second thing is, you know this language. You know how it works. And that's kind of part of what I've been talking about. When you know how this language works, it's just a matter of filling in the blanks. There's some times where I notice that, like, I feel like I understood what they're saying, but it's just not familiar to me. I kind of feel like I understand the pattern. I just may not know one word, or I may not understand their accent, but I feel like I understand what they're trying to say. Build on that. So like, don't be insecure about that. And especially, and I have a whole other video on circumlocution, so that if you want to build confidence by advocating for yourself and ensuring that you understand what's going on. The third thing to remember is that mistakes are part of the process. We get nervous, and it does affect the words that come out of my mouth sometimes. I remember being in Germany, and I just felt like I had to be impressive. I'm an au pair. I've never been here. My au pair children, they only speak German. I mean, there were 4. So the thing is, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm afraid I'm going to say something stupid. I remember being at a brunch with my host family and their extended family all together. And I remember challenging myself to speak up in the discussion. I remember, like I said, I think I might have mentioned this before, but we were talking about blockchains, like production and supply chains. I was surprised that I even had something to say about that. I was like, I understand what we're talking about. So it's like, make mistakes is part of the process. And even my host family said over time, like, we've noticed your German improving, especially by listening comprehension. Because when I got there, I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. And the kids eventually, especially the kids, because like they'll whine and they'll complain and whatever, and they'll talk, they don't talk very clearly. They don't enunciate their words like adults typically do. So I had to slowly get used to that. So yeah, it's just part of the process. I'm like, I don't know how to, I remember saying something like, cause like when we were getting the kids ready for, I think kindergarten, or no, it wasn't kindergarten. It was like ready for bed. And I remember, like, we would check the clothes to make sure that they weren't dirty. And if they weren't dirty, then we would, or they looked clean, they would wear that the next day. So you didn't have, like, a pile of laundry in the wash, you know. So I just remember looking at this and I said, das schmeckt sauber. Like, I thought I said this smells clean. He's like, schmeckt? He's like, yeah, mit my Nase, like with my nose. He's like, oh, riechen. Das riecht sauber. So that smells clean. What I said was, this tastes clean. He's like, why are you tasting their clothes? It's like, I'm a little confused. And again, of course, they knew I was not a native speaker. So it's like, okay, like, what do you mean by that? So, and then I learned a new vocabulary word. So, and we moved on. Number 4, that's the other thing to remember. Going into number 4. Remember, you are not a native speaker. I know sometimes people say, I want to be so fluent and I just want to be at a level where like I could disguise myself as a native speaker. No, just remember, like, we need to be humble and we need to know who we are and who we are not. Like, even for me, as a French speaker, I know I'm not a native French speaker. And I've been speaking French for years. So I still have to remember that there are things that, you just have to accept it. I mean, it takes the pressure off of having to be perfect. It's like, I've got to get this right. No, you're not a native speaker. And even because you're not a native speaker, the standards are a little bit lower. It's like, okay, it might take a little bit of effort, but I think this person knows this language. My host mother used to tell me all the time, she said, Jazz, you know German. I'm like, I do. It's like, yeah. It's like, yeah, you speak so well. And I'm like, because I speak it all the time, because like, again, I'm in Germany. And that was the standard language they wanted me to be able to speak. They're like, all the other pairs that we looked at, all the other au pairs that we looked at, you were the one that spoke the most German. And that's what we wanted. So, and the whole point of being an au pair is to learn the language, you know. So, and especially if you're in a class or a tutoring setting, you got to remember that you can't be expected to be perfect, because otherwise, why am I teaching you if you know the language? I mean, that's a really good point to ask yourself. You're not a native speaker. There's still more to learn. And honestly, I don't know how I would feel about that if I got to a point where I'm like, yeah, I know French, and then I'm just gonna I'm not gonna continue learning. You know, it's a process. And then the 5th thing I think that you should remember is that integration makes it easier. So like journaling. I have so many journals back here, and I write all of it in French because that's like the language I can write most proficient in. Listening to music, conversation groups, like finding people to be social with. And I have a whole conversation group video about how to find the best one and really how to make the most of that. Some speaking to yourself, because your goal is to get yourself to think in that language if that's your intention, you know. And even writing class notes. I used to do this in college because I didn't want people, people who would not show up to class and then they would ask you, hey, did you take notes last time? Can I take a picture of them? My notes are in French. I don't think you're going to be able to read them. You know, like using the vocabulary that I would use, and then I would just kind of put in English anything else, any words I specifically didn't know. Yeah. And so like it's more about like finding ways to use the language. And that's a vote of confidence to you and your language skills. That's a vote of confidence. The 6th thing is to be proud of yourself. for saying something, reading something, understanding something. You know, if a conversation lasts, you know, more than 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I mean, everything is pretty much something to be proud of. It's like there are times where I have gone through conversation groups and I'm just thinking, wow, I managed to stay in the target language the whole time. Like, that's an accomplishment, you know? And so it's like really building a healthy sense of pride, which allows you to tell yourself that you can do this. Like I said, it's a vote towards your goals, and it gives you a sense of capability in yourself. And the last and the seventh thing I'll say is you just got to be brave. The worst thing you could do is stay silent in the midst of a valuable opportunity to test your language skills. This is a test. It's like, do I really know this language? And it's just really getting comfortable with failure. There's a chance that I might say something that's going to be embarrassing. But the thing is, the other person, if they know that you're learning this language, I mean, I don't really see a reason why they should get upset that someone is trying to learn their language. So I just want to ask a question, like, what would you do if every time you made a mistake, someone came out and just congratulated you and said, hey, congratulations, you made a mistake? So it's just, I kind of think of that, like if every time you had a failure moment and people just congratulated you, how would you feel about that? At the end of the day, I'm rooting for you. I hope you guys got something out of this video to help you with your confidence, especially in speaking skills. I had a student who told me that out of the 4 aspects of communication, speaking was something he felt like it was a challenge, especially spontaneous conversation. He passed with flying colors. Like, I'm so proud. You know, I'm so proud. So the thing is, like I said, I'm rooting for you. You can do this. All right. So y'all have a good one. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.